Okay. I think that I'm good on my end. I believe I'm recording. I hope everything's going well. Oh gosh. So how are you?
You know, I'm doing all right. I had an interview today,
Ooh,
and we'll see how that goes. I've just been very busy, and
ugh,
I need time for me, Grace.
you do.
I
And it's what you
need time for
deserve.
me, and I don't get a lot of that. And today is the day that we start making time for me.
Oh, it is.
What
Oh,
about
it
you?
is.
Do you get me time, Grace?
I get plenty of it just up here by myself, just living it up. um yeah, well, you know who also really decided it was her time to
Oh,
make her life the way she wanted it?
hopping right into it.
Because I wrote so many notes. I know I've already told you this like three times, but it took me 3 hours to watch this movie because I had to pause and rewind so many times because I needed to have all of the chaos fully explained for our listeners at home. The person who decided she was going to make her life how she wanted it and make her me time was Vivian. Miss Vivian from Bakery in Brooklyn, the movie of which we are reviewing today. And I have to say,
What do you have to say?
this is a very bold statement right out of the gate.
Go
Worst
for
movie
it.
we've watched so far. Absolute worst movie we've watched so far. And I will stand by that statement until the day I die.
Yeah, Tall Girl made me just angry, but
Yeah,
it, I don't want to say it was better. I think that they
it
both
was
had
less
major
bad.
flaws. But this movie just made me annoyed for some reason. Like, did you did you sit there and watch it and then just like get annoyed when any tiny inconvenience came up? Because I did. I was so
Yes.
mad. My like bathroom fan was going off by itself. My like heater fan was going on like it usually does, but I don't usually notice it. And then like I
Here you are
was doing something on
noticing.
my computer and something was going wrong and I was like, I am annoyed. And I think it was because of the stress in the movie, but the stress wasn't like a good kind of stress.
No.
It was like a why are we doing this right now kind of thing.
I just wanted it to be over the whole time I was watching it. I wanted it to be over. And then, you know what? As soon as I'm like, oh, it's probably been a little while, I would pause it to see how far it had been. No, probably been like 5 more minutes. And about three new subplots had been introduced in that time.
Yeah.
That was one of my like biggest problems. It's just overall, there's a million plot lines in this movie. And a lot of them are very far fetched and have nothing to do with a bakery.
Nothing. Absolutely
Nothing.
nothing. And it's so strange.
With that preface, would you like to read for again the folks at home? Would you like to read the
I
what is it,
guess.
the little snippet? You
And
guess.
also to the folks at home, you're going to be real happy to hear about this because we went into this movie
Oh
expecting
my
that it
god!
was going to be free on YouTube. And I think, well, Grace has a theory that she started watching it and then YouTube found out and then they started charging people. So we both had to pay
Literally.
$4.13 to view this film because we had already
Oh, you
decided
paid for the HD version? You paid the extra dollar for HD?
they didn't give me a
Girl, you
separate option.
I paid $3.14. You got double robbed. Yeah, no, because I started this movie last night. I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch it. But then as soon as it started, I was like, this is already too much for me. I'll watch it tomorrow. And then it wasn't free. And we literally realized it at the same time. I was literally like on YouTube looking for the movie, and you messaged me. You were like, it's not free anymore. And I was like, oh.
Grace, you know what I could have bought with $4.13? Could have gotten Starbucks for the day. I could
I
have
was gonna
gone out and gotten
say,
myself a nice cold kombucha. I could have
Oh, you're a
bought
kombucha girl.
quality guacamole,
Mm.
but I spent that $4.13 on a bakery in Brooklyn.
Which they never even use the word bakery once it starts. They call it some fancy
Boulangerie.
I don't know, the boulangerie
Boulangerie.
something,
I
just
believe
the
it's
drama
like
of it all.
a specifically bread bakery, or it's like a fancier bakery. I took French, but I remember hearing that word, but I always thought it
Yeah.
was patisserie, but I think patisserie was like a really tiny cat. Are you laughing at my pronunciation?
I'm just laughing at the combination of you going patisserie with your white and black striped shirt and your glasses. Like the combo of it all is just a lot, and I love it.
I have been Pierre for years.
Patisserie.
Patisserie. I have literally been, you and Mina used to call me Pierre in high school because I love a good striped shirt, but I have also
Hey.
been told that I also look French, which is so
Yeah.
funny to me because I am not.
Yeah, you're not. And I think it's the thin stripes because I wear a lot of like chunky striped shirts, but like it's your thin little, it's your itty bitty little stripes.
My trademark. I can't get rid of them
Yeah.
now.
It,
It's
it,
been
you can't.
years.
You can't.
You know how many
You
different
can't.
versions I've had of this exact same shirt, just in
How
different
many?
brands?
How many?
I mean, at least 15.
You know, that makes me feel less bad. I'm constantly buying basically like the same shirts that I already have, just slightly different variation. I mean, my hockey jersey collection alone is just, they're all basically the same thing, just toss in a different color. But
Yeah.
God, do I love a good collection.
Anyway, the
Yeah.
synopsis for bakery, not even a bakery, it's just called Bakery in Brooklyn.
That was another one of those things where it was like, I'm already so annoyed by this movie that pissed me off, that like every time I would Google it, it was like, do you mean just bakery in Brooklyn? I was like, no, shut up, a bakery in Brooklyn.
Just one of them. Okay, so after inheriting their aunt's bakery in a changing neighborhood, a woman and her cousin must find a way to save the business. They divide the shop in half to reflect their individual business styles, but soon fight over every customer. It was released January 20th, 2017, which we both were astonished by that fact because it absolutely looks like it's from at the latest 2012.
Yeah. No, there were a lot of just like general production issues, one of them being the costuming, and it was very bad, very, very, very bad throughout the movie, especially I mean, I guess we'll get to specific scenes and then we can talk about the clothes that were worn. I'm trying to keep this episode as organized as possible because I swear to God, this movie feels like a fever dream. Like genuinely and truly, it feels like I'm one of those people, not to be like I'm so quirky, but like the dreams that I have are always so incredibly strange. They're always so strange. Like I'm not one of those people that's like, oh my God, I was so stressed, so I was taking a test in my dream. No, like I one time, I don't know why this is like the dream that comes to my mind off the top of my head, but like a few years ago, I had a dream where I was hanging out with one of my friends from college and we were in her basement and she had a skate park down there and her dad comes downstairs, her dad being, what's his name? Gordon Ramsay. In my dream, my friend from college, her dad was Gordon Ramsay and he brought us Jersey Mikes. Like these are like the kinds of dreams that I have. And that makes as much sense to me as this movie did. Like the way that things just get thrown at you. So I'm going to really try. Just know I'm giving you all the context and I'm not skipping stuff. That's just what this movie is.
Yeah, that's true. And I have weird shit happen in my dreams too. All of mine usually involve a bathroom and like me ripping out my own teeth. And I feel like
that means you're stressed. I know that tooth losing is stress induced. You're a stressed woman, I must say. You're ripping out your own teeth too. You're just like, I make myself stressed.
Sometimes I have to feed them to other people.
Taya.
And then I'm always driving in a car that doesn't have any brakes, or like the brakes don't work at all. And I'm like just driving into like a cave or
Do you
into
realize
the Mall of America.
what is this? My most recent dream from like 2 nights ago that I can remember is I was at one of my best friends from high school. I was at her oldest sister's sweet 16. It was in a random backyard and there was a bunch of chairs set up as if it was a wedding. And she came through like the gates of the backyard wearing like an all red dress with like a white satin like shawl and like, you know, elbow length gloves.
Oh my God.
That were white. And it was a Target themed party. And she literally like got onto this oversized Target cart and just drove around the yard, like waving like this. That's the kind of dream I have.
Yeah.
You know, we're a little different.
Yeah.
I love it. You're like, yeah, I have crazy dreams too. But they involve me pulling out my own teeth and driving cars into malls. Dear God. Anyways. As we begin. Basically, so the movie starts off, it's one of those kind of like they show you a scene and then show you how they got to that scene kind of a deals. Starts off with the two cousins, Vivian and Chloe, in the middle of a food fight, you know, just really wrestling and tussling. And the way that I had no context as to what this movie was, and before we started watching it, you're like, who knows? Maybe it's LGBT because Chloe, one of the cousins, has like a very abrupt bob and wearing a fedora on the cover. The way that my jaw just immediately dropped when she was like, "Yeah, we're cousins," I was like, "Oh, so this isn't a gay movie."
Yeah, that's what I said. I said the fight scene was awkward and also LGBT.
Yeah, I know. I was like, this feels a little like y'all are keeping something in the family. Like, I know that y'all aren't gay, but like, it just felt so gay. Oh, God. Oh, but don't you worry. They're in New York City, as we can tell by hold on. In this movie, I did not notice any product placement. However, the Manhattan Bridge, specifically from the angle of Washington Street, you know, like the iconic, like, we're in New York shot, was used no less than 8 times in this movie. So don't you forget, we're in New York, not Alabama. They used that shot every 2 fucking minutes, like every 2 minutes. It was absolutely too much. Instead of product placement, they were like, here's the Washington Bridge again, in case you forgot. Oh, yeah, just in case anyone forgot. But all right, so they have the little scene of them throwing cakes in each other's faces for a little too long to establish that they don't like each other. But then, you know, they go back. I think it was like 2 weeks back, and Vivian is walking into the bakery and talks to Isabel. The bakery is Isabel's, whatever that French word was. I'm just going to say bakery because oh, girl, it's not going to work for me. It's too hard. I can't. The boulangerie. Vivian's walking in and she talks to Isabel, the owner, who is her aunt, but her aunt raised her as her own kid because Vivian's parents died earlier on in her life. We don't find out until later, but I'll just mention it now that Vivian and Chloe's parents died in they just said accident, so I assume it was a car crash. So they both are orphans that were both raised by Isabel. That was something that took the movie forever to fully establish. And I was very confused for a very long time who was related to who and how. That was another thing like that I had a problem with this movie is like, I'll bring him up soon, but there's like also this character named Ian. I don't know why he's in it. I don't know why he's in it. I don't know how he knows anybody. I thought he was another cousin, but he's not. And I don't get it. But anyways.
Is there a book that goes with this movie? I feel like we're missing things.
If there is,
things.
I don't want to know about it. Like, I cannot imagine the experience of this story being elongated by reading. You know what I mean? Like,
that's very fair.
That sounds horrible. That sounds absolutely horrible to me.
No matter how you slice it, cha-ching. It's gonna be a terrible story, and I don't.
It is.
I'm
It
so
is.
sorry that we had to watch this.
Honestly, though, it's fun, but it also sucks. It's such a weird 50-50 of like, I have so much fun because I'm like, oh my God, the conversation we're going to get from it. But like in the moment of watching it, I was going through a little bit of pain. Oh, but basically, Vivian goes to the shop. She's talking to Isabel in the back, and we learn that there's a retirement party that night for Dave, who I believe is Isabel's husband, because she says Uncle Dave. So I think that's like her dad uncle. Her dunkle. And in this conversation, she mentions like, oh, I finally sold the whole collection. Doesn't really state what it is, but she hands Isabel a bracelet. So I guess she's a bracelet maker at the beginning of the movie.
I don't know.
It never comes up ever again. Never comes up ever again. But apparently she's a bracelet maker who's been dreaming to go to Europe. And now that she has sold the whole collection of something, she now has the money to go to Europe, and she's gonna do it, but she's just, so excited. And Isabel asks her, after they talk about that for a little while, Isabel asks her to grab some wine for the retirement party for Dave that night. And she's like, oh, okay, sure. That's kind of that scene.
Can I just say that I had a really hard time trying to figure out if Isabel was also Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development, and I'm pretty sure she is not.
She's not. She's absolutely not. They did not have the money to get her. They did not.
I was like,
not in the slightest.
She really looks like her, but her acting chops are really not to the level of Lucille Bluth at all. So I was like, is this like some earlier business? And then I saw that it was from 2017, and I was like, absolutely not.
No. But also this is such a stupid side note, but as a person who is currently dating someone in the culinary field, I was very bothered by something that happened in this scene.
Oh, no.
When Vivian walks in. First of all of the times that a like comparison or some sort of imagery was trying to be written into the script, it was written horribly. That's something I will say. I wrote down a lot of quotes where they were trying to create imagery through words, and it's horrible. One of the first things Vivian says when she walks in and sees Isabel is, wow, that smells like art, about Vivian making some cannolis. That doesn't sound like speaking. It's like it is English, but it isn't. Yeah. Wow, that smells like art. What? And also so back to the part of I was bothered because of the culinary expertise that I'm around very often. I was like, cannolis don't have that much of a smell. You fry the outer shell and then you fill it once it's chilled. They don't have much of a smell. I was like, what do you mean the smell? Like, yeah, there's going to be like a little bit of a waft if you really shove your face into the... I was so bothered because it was like she walked in, like, just have her be making some cookies or something that is pungent. Why did you choose cannolis? It's so unimportant, but that really ruffled my feathers, and I knew I was in for a long haul after that.
Cannolis are also not French. If it's a French bakery, why wouldn't they choose something like an éclair?
An éclair. Well, and also eclairs are so much tastier. I'm an eclair girl. I love those. Like, I still like a cannoli, but oh yeah, that'll get in the way. Oh, boo! No. Boring, gluten-free, boring.
Oh, I've been trying to bake gluten-free things. I made gluten-free cinnamon rolls. That was great.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, it was real good.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another detail that made me upset. Like, this is an Italian dessert, and this is supposed to be a French bakery.
But
it was not as distracting as what happened next.
Well, what happened next? Are you wanting to take this away, or do you want me to describe the next scene?
Old lady.
Oh no! Hold on. We've got like another scene in the middle. Trust me, I've got the notes. So the next scene, real quick, just like an establishing scene, is when we first see Chloe. We cut over to Chloe at her job, where she's basically at a TV show, some food show. And she's one of the cooks on it that helps make recipes or something, I guess. But Fernando is the host of the show. Fernando's going to come back, unfortunately, a lot more in this movie. So we cut over to Chloe at her job. And it's kind of a scene that just establishes that she's kind of rude, like all the time, and uses her obscene knowledge in food science to diss people all the time.
Which is like why she was gay.
Oh, well, and also I think she just looks a little bit too much like early April Ludgate to like not feel like she's a little queer coded.
I had to Google if she was the person who played April's sister on Parks and Rec. Because I thought she looked like April's sister, and she is not. But they do look very similar.
Yeah. I think
compared to April Ludgate.
Yeah, I think the similarity to her made me also just immediately be like, that's gay. But basically, yeah, there's clearly some animosity between her and Fernando, but they have this weird conversation where they're like yelling at each other and their noses are touching.
Is that
it was weird.
Russell Brand? Fernando?
I guess so. But he's also not British. Yeah.
He's not British, but he's got another annoying accent.
He's Latino. That's what he brings it up multiple times throughout the rest of the thing.
He was? I thought he was Italian.
He brought it up like 1,000 times. He was like, that's what people think of us Latinos. Like, he says that a lot.
That was not anything close.
Well, I yet again was noticing things that you seem to have missed in these movies.
Sorry. I got really bored, Grace.
It's fair. I was too. But yeah, basically in this scene, it just establishes that those are kind of her quirks. She's kind of rude and uses weird knowledge about omega-3s often to diss people. She asks somebody to cover for her so she can go to the retirement party, but they say no. So she has to stay at work that night. But now we cut back to the bakery, and it is now the retirement party for Dave. And he basically, we learned that he was a groundskeeper at a baseball field his whole life. And now we are introduced to a very, very weird character, very, 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 very weird character named Nathan, who runs like a shoe. You would think it's a shoe shining stand, but it's not. You basically pay this man to touch your shoe and he can tell you things about yourself. That is literally what it is. Like, this is one of those moments where I'm like, I swear to God, I'm giving you the whole context. I am not making this up. This is what happens in this movie. This man named Nathan touches your shoe and tells you about yourself. And yeah, Vivian is there getting her shoe touched and then remembers, oh my God, I have to go get the wine for the party. So she leaves and she grabs the wine. And as she gets back to the party, this is the part that you wanted to talk about. Isabel is literally choking and dying on cake, or at least it seems like she's choking on cake. And she doesn't stay inside where there's a bunch of other people that could have helped her. She like walks out of the bakery mid-death and falls into Vivian's arms and tells her, you know, save the most precious thing in our family, and just dies.
I just add, there was not a single gray hair on her head. She was probably under 70, maybe. And she knew it was her time to go, but was just like choking on cake. First of all, there was leading up to that, I was so distracted because I was like, I do not want to watch this old lady eat cake right now. Because
they had such a long scene of her eating cake. Yeah. Before she starts choking.
The cake.
Yeah. Before she fully dies, before she dies out on the street, There's like a solid 30-second clip of her just eating cake inside.
I was like,
why?
Watch this woman eat cake. I do not want to watch this woman eat cake right now.
Well, and her punishment for making me see that was she was killed off. That's what she gets.
Like, is she dying right now? Because you don't really know until the next scene that she's
and
dead.
Also, of all things, they make it seem like she's choking. Apparently, in the next scene, they establish that she just had too much sugar in her system. She like overdosed on sugar. Like she didn't even die. But like at first I was thinking to myself, I was like, did she really die on a sponge cake? Like the most disintegrating like baked good she could have had. Like sponge cake, like how dry did she make the cake that she was able to choke on it this hard? Like she kind of did it to herself, but we do find out that that's not the case. One of the things, I mean, I know I've said a bunch of things about this movie, but one of the things that really, really bothered me was just how abrupt, like, scenes would change. Like, it went from her dying in Vivian's arms to immediately it's her funeral on seemingly the same night because everyone's wearing the same clothing. Everyone is still wearing the same clothing at her funeral, literally inside the building that she, like, just died outside of. And in this funeral, like, Vivian, Chloe, this guy named Ian, who again, we never really get an explanation of who he is, and Dave are like sitting on a couch and they're all sad in front of Isabel's open casket. And behind them is a bunch of Isabel's friends literally partying. They're just living it up with Isabel's corpse. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I was really checking out at that point. I was like, what is happening right now?
It makes no sense. But then Vivian decides to go get some air, goes to a restaurant like across the street and meets this guy named Paul, who she finds out is like this man named Paul, who's a banker. And oh God, when she meets him, he makes a very poorly timed joke about how sugar is not good for you. And I was like, ooh, sir. But anyways, that's that part, is that she meets Paul, who will become, again, sadly, very important. There's so many characters in this movie. But Paul is one of the ones. If you're writing down notes to try to keep up with me, I understand. Write down Paul's name if you're writing stuff down. But now, after she meets Paul, cut to the next scene yet again. I started adding like lines where like cuts happened, and it's like after I'd write 2 notes of something, cut, next scene, next one. But yeah, so next thing after she meets Paul and they have the weirdest funeral that has ever existed, Chloe and Vivian are at the office of a banker who like was settling the debts of the bakery. And he's literally got like a female chiropractor on his back. Like, and he's moaning and groaning the whole time while he's reading her will and talking to them about the debt that she owed.
Who was he?
He was the banker that like was in charge of the debts that the bakery has.
But they set it up as if they already had like a personal relationship with this man.
I don't know, but he was confused. This isn't the order in which things are revealed to us. Very soon you'll find this out anyways, but he's Paul's boss. Okay. That's who he was. He comes back up later too, multiple times. But this man just like reads them the will, tells them that there's a lot of debt, and the cousins decide to live together. But we never see where they live or anything, so I don't know why they even felt the need to say that. But
there's just so many unnecessary things in this movie that I feel like we don't even need to go into that much detail. It was just weird. The entire movie was just weird. Where did that other girl that spoke Spanish come from? Where'd she come from?
Okay.
And so, Mr. Foot and Basket Man, I am still so confused. And why did Chloe say, I love your voice, or I love your accent. It's like avocados. What the fuck? Come on.
You're
And
getting mad, getting mad.
That whole time, I thought that was her leading up to her being gay, and it just was.
I did too, and it wasn't.
She was wearing a fedora. Those are for gays
only.
And
only
awful men.
Yeah. Oh God. But yeah, no, yeah. That little outburst really is how I feel. That really is how I feel overall. Like,
I feel like we don't have to go into the details of the movie. It was just bad. Like you said, it was the worst one that we have seen so far. This lady is dying. There are so many unnecessary characters. This girl who was supposed to be gay is not, and she ends up hooking with off-brand Russell Brand. And I just, after that, I checked out. I was like, I don't know what's happening. There's like a mob boss situation.
There are many situations, because the next kind of situation is Vivian then realizes that Paul, she asks him for financial help because she remembers that he was a baker. Or not a baker, a banker. Jeez. He's a banker. So she asks for some help about how to get the bakery out of debt, but then later finds out that, like, oh, he's the banker that I have to be paying the debt too. So that kind of makes their relationship kind of complicated because, you know, surprise, surprise, he likes her and is constantly trying to go out to dinner with her, keeps trying to go on dates with her, and all of that.
He's a creepy stalker.
Yeah,
he literally follows her down the street, and it's uncomfortable, and she's uncomfortable the entire time. But of course, it's a movie where the girl has to fall for the nerd guy because he's just so nerdy, and it's his only chance to ever find a woman. It made me mad.
Same scenario though when it comes to like literally the exact same scenario with Ian and Daniela.
That's what I was talking about. Was that not who you're talking about?
No, I was talking.
Many people in this movie.
There are. I was still originally I was still talking about Paul with Vivian.
Oh, but they bothered me.
But yeah, basically next scenario, the cousins are then at the bakery cleaning up and kind of talking about what's next. Vivian at this point still thinks that she's going to go to Europe. But next day she decides that she's going to stay and try to help the bakery. But very soon it becomes very evident that Chloe and Vivian can't really work together because they have very different like management personalities. And the first day that they try to, I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself. First, Chloe quits her job and Vivian decides to stay. While Chloe is quitting her job at the TV show that Fernando hosts, she quits in a very strange way. He's like, oh, you can't leave. And she said, listen closely, because I'm what you call leaving with extra sauce. And you're on your own with no garnish on the side. And then she just spins out of frame.
You could tell she was uncomfortable saying that too. The actor, you could tell that she really did not want to say that at that time.
Well, and she did it for the check. She still did it.
She fully did, but I'm going to guess that she did not get a very big check from this movie.
I don't think so. But weirdly enough, this is when we're introduced to Daniela, the other character that you brought up. Daniela actually is the girl in that shot that you can't see the face of, that she tells like, oh, your accent sounds like avocados. That was Daniela. Because then when when she sees Daniela later, when Daniela is a designer, I guess. And she comes back in, she's Chloe's friend. She's a designer and she helps Chloe decorate her half of the bakery. And anyways, again, it becomes very evident that the two can't work together. The first day that they try to work together, Chloe gets all types of pissed off and uses a cleaver knife to cut, because it was like someone comes in and tries to buy half of a croissant. So she uses a whole cleaver knife to cut it in half. And then the next customer that comes in, she just starts cutting up all of the tarts on the pan in half because one person made one stupid request and Vivian was okay with it. And that's when they decide to then literally split the restaurant in half with duct tape. And Chloe redesigns her half to make it all modern and chic with Daniela's help. So now it's kind of this competition between the two of like, who can make more money, who can sell more food. But they never even really like up front say that. They just kind of reference it later of like, oh, she's selling more than me. And it's confusing. It's very, very, very strange. But I do have another Chloe quote that I wrote down. Mm-hmm. There was like an old couple that came in and Chloe was just in a very bad mood. The old couple wanted a croquembouche, which is like do you know what those are?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those listening at home, you can Google it. But this old couple comes in wanting a croquembouche. And Chloe's response was, you can have an almond tart because that would probably help like raise your libido and serotonin. Girl. And the old lady says, Miss, I think I'm too old for a libido pastry. But then her husband says, ooh, let me try one of those. Like this movie had so many moments like that where it was just like, why did it happen? Why did you say that? What was the point? Yeah. What? But in this moment, Ian, random man alert that we don't fully know who he is, gets his foot stuck in a basket and he can't get it out. And he just hops on down the street. Instead of sitting down and taking it off his foot, he just keeps hopping into the night.
You heard
into
that.
The night.
You heard the people at home listening. You heard that correctly. This is a pivotal point in this movie that this little bitch is in the back of the bakery while these two girls at the front are fighting, and he gets his little feet stuck in a bread basket. Tiny, it's not even tiny. He could just walk right out of it. He puts one foot in and then he puts the other foot in, and then he proceeds to rip up the basket and walks around in it, or hops
all around New York City.
All around New York City with pieces of bread in there instead of just taking his foot out of the basket. You want to know why? So he could start stalking. What was her name?
Daniela.
So he could start stalking Daniela because she comes up to the rescue and she takes his legs out one by one from the basket. This is one of the biggest scenes in the movie. Can I just emphasize that this was one of the biggest plot points of the movie, that this man got his feet stuck in a basket.
I don't know. Have you emphasized it enough? I think you might need to really hammer it home.
I was like, what the hell is going on here?
He literally they kept cutting to different scenes and he just still was hopping. He was still hopping. And literally in the middle of the night, then he just like looks up to the sky and is like, please send me an angel to get me out of my misery. And Daniela is right behind him and helps him get out of the basket.
You know what I do?
That was their meeting.
You know what I do appreciate about this plot point, though? It's that they really said men are helpless. Look at them.
Yeah.
They're stupid. Did. They don't even know how to get their foot out of a basket. They need a woman to help them. A woman saved the day that day. And
this is very, very, very true.
But she did save the day that day.
Yeah.
Also, where'd the drug guy come from?
Okay, yeah, that was another thing. I think like as he was stumbling out of the store the first time with the basket on his foot, this guy named Dimitri, who is a friend of Ian's, is basically like, yo, I left pills at your house. I need them back.
Why was Dimitri at your house?
I don't know. Dimitri had just been at his house once and left pills there. And Ian's like, nope, don't have them. Not getting them for you. And hops away. And this happens a few times. There's like a few more scenes that like are, again, so unnecessary. Like they cut to the next morning and Ian's just on a walk and Dimitri comes up and is like, hey, need those pills back. And Ian's like, nope. And that was literally the whole scene. That was literally one of the whole entire scenes in this movie, was
We're
him just saying no.
We're still in the first half of the movie, by the way.
Literally.
This is not even the second
Yeah.
half of the movie. This is just how the entire thing goes. It's just
Yeah.
random side action after another. And
Yeah.
it doesn't all make sense. It's like it's like they forgot that they needed just to make one movie, and they were trying to make a Netflix series.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's the whole scene where he gets his foot stuck and all that. That actually happens before the scene where Chloe starts cutting everything in half. But I did make a note that the man that asked for half of a croissant, when she was like, "You want half of a croissant?" He goes, "Yeah, a croissant." And he sounds exactly like the guy in Jimmy Neutron. He was like, "I want a croissant."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was so funny. I was like, "What? How are?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
What's going? Like, what the hell are you doing? How are you, like, as an actor, it must have been some desperate times, because who could look at a script, see that, and be like, yep, I'll do it. Like, they must have been shoveling out some stupid money to these actors for them to say this stuff.
Or they just were trying to find really desperate theater actors.
Yeah, they just found people that had like nothing on their resume, and they were like, yep, you sound perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Cheap.
Yeah. But then, they have this is when they finally get back to the point of them having their whole food fight. And from then on, the bakery is in half. Then it says cut to Ian, still stuck in a basket, and he sees Dimitri. That's when we learn about Dimitri. Then it like for half of a second cut over to Nathan, the shoe guy's stand, and all we see is Paul walk by it, and that's it. That was a whole scene. They cut back to the food fight because it's still going after all of these other scenes. And Paul walks in, and he then is able to convince Viv to go to dinner with him for the first time, but it was just to sign some documents. But she's still covered head to toe in cake. And while at the diner, she's like, I trust people too easy. How can I trust you? And to like even things out, since she was covered in food, this man starts dumping syrup on his head.
Listen, if you see something, say something. You do not have to make a movie.
You don't.
You can have money. That's fine.
Oh, but sure.
What you don't need to do with it is make a movie.
No.
I am appalled that nobody stepped in and said, we don't need to do this. This is not going to do well. You're wasting your time and money. And we just need to shut this thing down right now in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
would think so.
Other movies that came out in 2017. 2017 Oscar nominations. And I'm not saying that this was ultimately their goal.
No, but I mean, you hope it does all right. Also, I looked up, because I always look up like the box office and everything. It was only released in Italy.
Oh,
it wasn't released in the US. It was only released internationally.
Let me tell you about the movies that were nominated for Oscars in 2017. La La Land. Moonlight. We had performances by Viola Davis as she accepted an Oscar. This was the year of Hamilton. This was the year of Manchester by the Sea, Hacksaw Ridge.
As well as Bakery in Brooklyn. All right.
My point is,
you
don't have to make a movie.
You don't. You really, really don't. You don't. You never do.
You can do
it's never necessary.
Else. Listen, I'm a photographer. You can do that. That's a way better way to use a camera when you don't know how to write a script.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to make a movie. And you don't
Yeah.
have to make your movie set in a bakery in New York or in another
Right
major
by
city.
the Washington Bridge, in
You
case
don't need to
anybody
have
forgot.
a bakery that some young person takes over because somebody died. Because you know where we've seen that?
Because they ate their own cake.
Uh, are we forgetting Miss Vanessa Hudgens
Oh
and her
no.
Chicago bakery?
It's hard to forget Miss Vanessa Hudgens
I
and
know she
her
really just
Chicago
comes back all the
bakery.
time.
And she's going to again in our next movie, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
But after all of this, after the diner and everything, this actually, I don't know if I'm using this word right, but like canonically, like in the order of which things happened, that's not the right word. Forget I said that. That was stupid. But basically, this is now when Ian finally runs into Daniela. Okay. This is when he finally gets the basket off his feet. Like literally 7 scenes later, he finally gets his basket taken off his feet. And once she takes it off his feet, he says, she says, I hope you'll now be able to walk okay when she takes it off of his feet. And he said, I won't need to walk ever again. Now that I met you, I will be floating on a cloud. That's another one of those moments where I'm like, it is English, but that makes no sense. What are you saying? What's going on? Who wrote this and why? What
that's something I would say to my girlfriend when I'm half asleep and need to go to bed.
that exactly. Like that's one of those things where like, and I mean, I get maybe he's nervous, pretty lady, like, but what the hell, man? Like, it would be one thing if that was the only time that the writers wrote something that sounded like that, but that's what they sound like all the time. Like, literally, whenever Chloe hears a person with an accent speak, of which there are multiple people with accents in this movie, she always has to comment on their accent. One time, she calls Daniela's accent, she says it sounds like avocados. Another time, she also said, yeah, yeah, it is. And another time, she says, your accent sounds like strawberries. What does that mean? What does a strawberry sound like? I don't understand what that means. Like, if she had said it's velvety like an avocado, like that's still weird, but like it would make it make some sense. But when you just say it sounds like an avocado or it sounds like a strawberry, what does that mean? What does it mean for a voice to sound like a fruit?
I don't know. I'm guessing the script was written by normies that were trying to be quirky and they didn't know how.
Oh God, it really, really was. But yeah, at this point, because at this point, Ian doesn't realize that Chloe knows Daniela, but in the very next scene, he finds out that like, oh, she's gonna be the decorator of the bakery, and oh my God, I get to know her. And then literally for the rest of the movie, he just stalks her. He just follows her wherever she goes,
and she doesn't want it.
She doesn't, because she has like a little side project basically where she's, and this is honestly the part of the movie where I was like, where am I? Where am I? When we first see Daniela going to Daniela has another job for a place that she's redecorating. She's walking to a Victorian home outside of the city, and Ian follows her the whole way there. Not okay.
This is some Bruno Mars shit. This is something that Bruno Mars has to sound about.
Back to Bruno Mars.
I hate Bruno Mars. Do you remember?
We had this conversation in like one of the earlier episodes.
Yes, I'm sticking by it because I don't like that man. Do you remember when we were in high school and we went to a Christian private school, and on Tuesdays we would have assembly and on Thursdays we would have like a God-centered chapel. I feel like one time for an assembly we had this like quote unquote motivational speaker come in. And he was like, you just have to be persistent with women. I asked my wife if she would be my girlfriend no less than 150 times. Each time she said no, until like the last day we were at college. And I asked her, and she was so annoyed with me that she just said yes. Now we're married. You just need to be persistent. And as a gay person, I walked away from that going, no, you are harassing this woman and she just needs to be left alone. And that's what this situation felt like. Just
it
leave
very
the
much
girl
is.
alone. Do you
Yeah.
remember that assembly though? Because that was fucked up. Why did we sit
I
through
have
that?
to say that one, it rings a bell, but I don't remember it super specifically. But like, it doesn't shock me because I do remember there being quite a handful of chapels with speakers with similar messages.
And then
where
he tried to sell us his book. He was like, just
yeah,
so you know, I'm being paid to be here, and also you can buy my book at the end.
that sounds
What?
familiar. It sounds familiar. I more remember when there was someone who his story was about how he didn't have ears, and he had like prosthetic ears,
Yes,
and he brought a tub of extra prosthetic ears, and at the end of his speech he literally threw them into the crowd.
Yeah,
He threw his prosthetic ears into the crowd.
I do remember that one, and
Yeah, hard to forget.
I wasn't the best high school student, so I sat in for the first probably like 2 minutes of that one, and then I booked it out of there, and I did not.
You didn't even see it.
I didn't. I skipped that one for sure. I went and probably hid in the art room or something.
Oh God, you missed out. You missed it. And I was also in like one of the first rows. Like my advisory was up in the front, so I had no way of getting out of that. But yeah, he tossed his ears at us. So we had a few chapel speakers at our school that were, better or worse.
I love private school.
Yeah. Oh God. But yeah, where even were we? Oh, so at this point,
badgering this poor woman who doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah. I'm trying to follow my notes enough that I don't forget something important, but I'm also not trying to fully follow this whole movie because that would take way too long.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, no, I did too. But basically, she walks out to this Victorian home and walks right in and then is like, oh, I know you followed me. And he's behind her. And she's like, well, I mean, yeah. And then the owners of the residents creepily just open a door and they're there. And they basically explain, like, yeah, you can redecorate anything about the house, but don't touch the floors. We don't want the floors changed, but the floors are really ugly. So it's kind of weird that they don't want them changed. And that's that for now. The only other important thing that happens in that scene is just that she kind of like tells Ian, like, I want an assertive man, not a weak man. So then he like tries to become more assertive throughout the movie, tries to become, like a bad boy. But that's that for now. We will revisit this plot line in a second because it is, again, the weirdest one. Little side note.
And it also becomes the entire movie.
Yeah, somehow. Which it shouldn't, because the entire movie should literally be about saving this bakery, but it doesn't. It's not.
No.
But then it's a decent amount of time where it's just, showing the struggles of the two people trying to run the different halves of the bakery. We're introduced to this guy named Lenny who sells frozen pastries, which Vivian starts to use because she can't bake. And Lenny, weirdly, again, he's literally just a frozen pastry salesman, but he comes back in the end later, and it's so strange. Daniela cut back to the bakery. There's some weird scene with hipsters using strange words, which proves to Vivian that, oh, the old people buy my food and the hip young people buy Chloe's food. Don't know why it happened. But then a really funny other side plot begins where, as I mentioned before, Dave was a groundskeeper for multiple years at a baseball field. And Dimitri, as we've been introduced to, likes los drogas. He likes drugs. And Dave was trying to sell someone some baked goods, but got really confused, and the person left, and he just mutters to himself, God, all I know about is grass. Dimitri hears that, thinking that Dave is talking about weed, and they become friends based off of this misunderstanding of Dimitri thinking that Dave knows a lot about weed. That's literally the plot. They just become really good friends because Dimitri's under the impression that Dave knows about weed. And then for multiple other scenes, it's literally just them like hanging out at parks, and Dave doesn't have good eyesight. So now Dimitri, who's originally from Russia, reads him a book in his Russian accent because it's about crime. And Dave says it sounds better and it makes more sense in a Russian accent anyways.
Oh boy.
the number of problems and the way that it was just so unnecessary, like that. There's multiple scenes of this, like at least like 2 or 3 separate scenes of them just like hanging out, reading this one book because Dave can't see, and Dimitri thought Dave likes weed.
If you have money, you don't need to make a
You
movie.
You don't.
You don't need to do it. You can be a photographer on your own time, and you can start an Instagram. You don't have to make a movie.
You don't, because you want to know what else happens in this? You want to know what else happens in this movie?
Hit me.
Well, Paul, as mentioned, has a crush on Vivian and isn't getting anywhere. And she keeps on saying no. So you know what he does? He goes to the bakery one day. And while she's sitting there, for whatever reason, she has her shoes off while she's eating in the bakery. He steals one of her shoes and brings it to Nathan's stand to find out more about her. And then he goes on a date with her and knows a bunch of intimate things about her that he shouldn't already know. And he uses it to woo her on the date because the shoe somehow told it to him.
I'll give it to men that they find some really creative ways to harass women.
They're very creative with their harassment. This is very true.
I could never come up with as LGBT.
Well,
LGBT. And
another straight relationship.
That's awful.
What?
It's terrible. This man is so boring.
He's so boring. He's so boring. And she really, when he picks her up for their date that she finally agrees to, she is like, no, you don't look good. And then puts an infinity scarf on him and is like, now we're good to go. Now we can go on our date. Excuse me, what? Again, it was 2017. I thought infinity scarves were like at maximum worn in 2014, but I suppose that's just me.
No.
Another subplot of this is that Fernando, the man that was in the TV show that Chloe was a part of, they always seem to have this beef, but it turns out it's just pent up sexual tension because there's multiple times where he comes to the bakery and he tries to help and they just start making out. Especially when he says the word humble. For some reason, that turns her on. And every single time he says it, they just start making out for an extended period of time. Doesn't matter who's there. It will happen. And she will lather him up with omega-3s. She just grabs butter and puts it all over him. It's so strange. Like, that makes it sound like it gets really, really graphic. It doesn't. It's really just them kissing. And at one point, she rips his shirt and puts butter on his chest. And then they're done, but like it's so weird. It's so weird. Yeah. They do. It
didn't need to do that. Also, I thought she was gay.
We all did. And
a denim.
Her and Daniela were endgame. Are you kidding me? The designer and a baker, gay. That's gay.
Just realized why that would be significant to you.
Anyway. So yeah, there's the subplot of like, will they, won't they, with Fernando and Chloe. That's something that happens throughout the movie. And there's also the subplot of Paul and Vivian, because there's the complicated, he's the banker, but he likes her. And at this point, you know what? Again, I have everything in order in my phone, but like I cannot handle this movie. The other subplot that we started to talk about with Daniela and Ian. Basically, Ian keeps on telling Daniela, like, I don't trust those old people. You shouldn't be working at that house. It's dangerous. I'm telling you, it's no good. Basically, one night when she's working there, he goes over because he can't leave her alone to save his life. And when he goes there, despite the fact that the Stoves, which is the name of the old people, they say, don't touch the floors. Danielle is like, oh, but I know there's hardwood under there. It's got to be so pretty. At first, when they rip up the carpet, there's linoleum. And she's like, ah, darn. Then he takes one of Dimitri's pills and suddenly can speak Spanish because she's from Chile. So that's her native language. And starts speaking to her in Spanish now that he's taken a pill, and says something about how there's beauty beneath the linoleum. And they just start ripping out the linoleum, and they find underneath the wooden boards skeletons of dead bodies of people murdered by the old people.
Yeah. Okay. So
this is not a joke.
We start this movie with two girls fighting in a bakery. Next
yes.
thing you know, old lady's dead. Next thing you know, they're at a happy party funeral. Next thing you know, these two girls that somehow are not lesbians are food fighting again. Next thing you know, they split the bakery in half. Next, who do we got? Mr. Man with his feet stuck in a bread basket. Next, what do we have? This girl trying to...
Dead people. Dead people.
These feet out of the bread basket. What do we have then? Oh, just, a lesbian and a straight man falling in love. Mr. Man Bun. And then we have a bunch of other things that are going on. Drug lords, whatever. Dead bodies in the floorboards. We have got so off track. You don't need to make a movie.
At all. Because then the old people get home and... Of course, they're like, we need to get out of here. And the old guy's like, absolutely not. He has a cane that has a sword in it and is like, you're going to stay for tea. And then it's the next morning and they've finally made the tea. I guess it took all night because the sun's up now. And, clearly it's to poison them. They've seen the dead bodies. They know too much. And so Daniela's really hesitant, doesn't want to drink the tea for obvious reasons. And Ian, because he's still high out of his mind, grabs the cup and drinks all of the tea at once. And all of a sudden, he can't speak Spanish anymore. And he's like, well, we're on our way out. And they just walk out of the house after drinking the tea. The old people are just like, all right. And then they look and they break the fourth wall, stare directly in the camera and go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then he falls in the middle of the street, just unconscious. And at this point, then they cut to multiple different people, just like it's like the montage moment where everyone realizes like, oh no, the bakery is actually going to go under. This is so bad. And like all of the different characters dealing with it. And then they just sprinkle in Ian in the ambulance every few seconds. Next morning, he's alive. There was arsenic in the tea. However, whatever was in the pills from Dimitri reversed the effects and neutralized the arsenic. So he's alive and fine.
If you have 6 different scripts that you're working on all at the same time, and you only have a certain amount of money, it does not mean that you have to combine all 6 scripts to make a movie.
It means you choose one. You choose one.
You choose one and you go with it. And maybe you ask for help.
You do.
Or you don't make a movie.
There's so many other details of weird things that are said. Like on the date between Vivian and Paul, he says that he went to Europe once and buried a book like an ostrich. Don't know why. That was another comparison that made no sense. But again, there's a lot of other details like that in this movie, but like I don't have the time. We've already been talking for an hour, and basically at the end of the day, the bakery doesn't go out of business because Paul somehow convinces New York City that this bakery is a historic landmark because Al Capone's wife used to eat lunch there. So they get a plaque saying that they're a historic site and cannot be closed. So the bakery stays in business, and Vivian finally goes to Europe, and then she runs into Paul in Europe, and it ends with them kissing. I shit you not, this is how the movie ends. This is the movie. There were many other moments, like, again, Lenny, the frozen pastry man, at one point comes back because the bank had added padlocks to the door, but Lenny was able to break open the door. Like, so many things, so many other things happened, but oh my God.
Say it with me, Grace. You don't need
to make a movie. You don't need to make a movie. It's never required. No one's forcing you to do it.
No
one. And the fact that I paid, even like the $3 that I paid, I am absolutely livid. I'm livid.
And 13 cents.
You clicked on HD, man. You didn't need it.
Not only will I never get that $4.13 back, but I won't get that time back in my life either.
No, I spent way too much. I should have taken shorter notes, but like I knew I wouldn't remember the context of anything if I didn't.
I'll give it to you. You really remembered that movie real good.
Too well. It's taking up too much of my brain.
How you were able to just really retell the entire thing and not forget a lot of things. You basically watched the movie just by hearing this, people at home.
Yeah, again, there's some scenes that got skipped and some quotes that you definitely missed out on, but it's not to the point that you should ever give them your money. Do not do it. Before I watched this movie, again, like I always write down the characters and everything. And while I was looking it up, I realized I went on the like Wikipedia for this, and I saw that one of the 3 ratings they ever received from like an actual movie critic, they got a 0.5 out of 4. And I was like, is it that bad? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I give this movie a 0.25 croissant out of 10 because it was absolutely horrible. Or I'm going to give it half of a croissant because that actually kind of really works with the joke in the movie of how he wanted half of a croissant. So this movie deserves half of a croissant out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to give
horrible.
It 1 pinky toe in a bread basket.
Oh God, yeah, no, absolute worst one. Even with any of the other movies that we've seen, if I was forced to rewatch any of those, I'd be like, okay, I can handle this. If I had to rewatch Bakery in Brooklyn, I would go crazy. I can't. Like, even just the thought of it makes me honestly feel a little sick. I can't. Oh, no. I cannot. It's so bad. Yeah,
it is.
That is my feelings. Like the feelings that you felt for Tall Girl, I feel tenfold for this. I absolutely despise this movie.
I fully believe
hate it. Hate it so much.
Well, what are we watching next, Grace? We had a request.
We do have. So do you want to do the requested? Let's do the requested one next because that's a better movie. We were requested by one of our friends from high school, Maddie. First of all, shout out to you, girl. Love you. We love you. We are going to watch Crazy Rich Asians next, which I think will be a welcomed change for at least a better put together movie. Because we were also going to watch another free on YouTube movie, but I think I need the palate cleanser of a movie that actually had some recognition for being good. I think that'll be good for us. I think that'll be good.
Movie. It's great. If you want to watch along at home, it is on HBO Max if you have HBO Max. Otherwise, I'm sure you can rent it other places. I love Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to watch a good movie. So we'll catch y'all on the flip side.
Uh-huh.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.